friends. My name is Stephanie Romero, and I am the founder and executive director of Awaken Pittsburgh. I want to welcome you to our podcast, The Ripple Effect. Awaken Pittsburgh is a nonprofit dedicated to fostering well-being, empathy, and compassion for all by teaching and encouraging mindfulness and meditation practices. I also want to take a moment to let you know that Awaken Pittsburgh offers many other opportunities for practice and connection. For example, you can join our online community, which features a space to more deeply explore the topics we cover with our guests. We have weekly posts to spark thought, practice, and reflection. I hope you will come join us to explore, connect with others, and deepen your practice. You can find out more at awakenpittsburgh.org. I am so happy to have Alex Lisowski on the Ripple Effect podcast today. Alex is a CPA with a background in serving financial service audit clients. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, he is a proponent of working hard to grow diversity in the Greater Pittsburgh region. A member and advocate of the LGBTQ community, Alex has served as the founder and chair of the LGBTQ BRG in his workplace. Alex's journey of mindful meditation began after entering the workplace, where he realized that finding his center was a key driver to his success. From practicing yoga regularly to supplementing his meditation with literature on mindfulness, Alex wants Pittsburgh to share in this success by broadly introducing mindful meditation. Alex holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Information Systems Management from Duquesne University and was the Assistant Treasurer on the Awaken Pittsburgh Board of Directors. Alex, I'm so grateful to have the conversation with you today. We have worked together on Awaken's board for a little bit over 3 years before your term ended. And I'm excited to dive in to talk more about your practice and the role of appreciation in your life.
Yeah, well, I think that I'd be remiss to not start with appreciating the time that I did spend with Awaken. So thanks for having me on the board and for the 3 and some odd months that I spent there. I think that it really helped me to grow professionally and personally, and that was the experience that I wanted to get out of it. So it was super beneficial for me, and I hope for Awaken. I know that we grew the organization to be in quite a different place than when I had started on the board. So it was definitely a good time.
Yeah, and we miss you. I'll just say that. We definitely miss you. I especially miss you. Great. So maybe we could start by just, you talking about how you got started with meditation and mindfulness in general and the role that it plays in your life today.
Really started my meditation journey in 2019. My mom had unfortunately passed away unexpectedly in the beginning of March 2019. And I found myself with a lot of trauma from that, and I needed some way to process it. So I dove into meditation via yoga. Like, I wanted to exercise my mind and my body simultaneously and help to calm some of the anxious thoughts that I was having around losing one of the closest people in my life. So I had explored the benefits of yoga and started to really get into a daily practice. Um, that helped. And then also just started reflecting more about the thoughts I was having, and did eventually also seek out like professional help via a therapist. But I think the combination of the two really helped to improve the situation and help me to navigate it much better.
Yeah, I think you're naming something really important. A lot of people come to meditation and practice through a tragedy or a difficulty in their life, myself included. I came to meditation through a divorce. So I think that that's something really important to name. And also, yoga, oftentimes at the very end, people will have people who guide teachers that teach yoga will have that little meditation right at the end. And it's usually like tagged on at the end. And a lot of people come to us because they're like, I always wanted to do more than just those few minutes right at the end of the yoga practice. What's that about? And traditionally, yoga was supposed to be the thing that prepared you to meditate. It wasn't the end, it wasn't the main dish, it was the appetizer, it was the getting the body ready for the meditation. So I'm always fascinated when people say yoga was my entry point because, like, that's what it's supposed to be. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just feel like on the journey of my practice in yoga, it did evolve into less focus or equal focus on the physical aspect and the workout portion, and also on that shavasana aspect where maybe I spent 20 minutes doing my yoga flow and then 20 minutes in shavasana as well to balance out both that physical and mental aspect to it. Um, but I also think that, like, just naming of the trauma leads us into our topic for the conversation of appreciation and how I feel about it. I think that um, when I think of appreciation for me personally and what I believe its importance to mindfulness is the recognition and acknowledgement of something, whether it be positive or negative, and the ability to pause, reflect on it, acknowledge the existence, and take away the appreciation from that. Um, in my like mindfulness and meditation journey, it's the moment that I like stop, pause, no matter how busy I am or how hectic my day is, and appreciate the existence of whatever thing is either troubling me or making me happy.
I love that you're bringing in both the positive and the negative because I don't think that we often feel that the negative goes with appreciation, right?
Yeah, I think, at least for me, I look at appreciation as the starting point for like personal growth. And I don't grow unless in some aspects of my life unless I acknowledge something negative that happened. Like for me, it's oh, like in an example, like work might have been especially challenging that day, and I'll be riding the subway home, and I'll just be like beating myself up about an interaction that I had with my client, and then I like pause and I think, I appreciated that moment because it was difficult to navigate. It did challenge me professionally and personally, but it also helped me to acknowledge that I might have had like a deficiency or an area of growth in that aspect. And this was the perfect like jumping off point to helping me to improve that. So if I don't appreciate the negative aspects to my life, then I would be remiss, or I would be like ignoring all of the challenges that I feel like have helped me to grow exponentially.
I love that. And it's just reminding me of one of the lessons we do in our basic introduction course where we talk about like the whole range of human experience includes all those negative emotions. And that sometimes we try to cut ourselves off to the negative emotions and only get the good ones. But that numbing inevitably numbs us to some of the positive too, right? So the ability to hold all of it is kind of what I hear you saying, is to really acknowledge the fullness of our experience and how when we're able to sit with the difficult, then the good is often sometimes just that much sweeter, that much more, the joy is more intense, the relief is more intense and delicious somehow.
I think that in the instances where you do appreciate the negative experience, like it helps you to better navigate that in the future. If you continually like ignore your negative experiences and they repetitively happen, then it almost continues to just accumulate or culminate and continuously build up until at one point you've tried to like hide away all of these anxious feelings and negative thoughts, and then it just kind of bursts and you either, I think in my lived experience it was culminating into like panic attacks, and I was having a lot of hard or a lot of difficulty on how I should navigate that. And it was physical for me in the sense that it was being triggered by what I felt like was like a shortness of breath and a difficulty breathing. And I think that a lot of it was related to that trauma that I experienced and me trying to navigate life without allowing myself to feel those negative emotions and process them, or in context of this podcast, appreciate them, um, even though they did change the trajectory of my life in a very major way.
Yeah. You're making me think of there's a phrase that I think it's Dan Siegel, anyways, psychologists, psychiatrists use. It's name it to tame it, right? That if we don't actually name the thing that's going on with us, we can't actually work with it. It's not workable until we name it. And if we think about like the actual definition of mindfulness as a part of that as awareness, right? And then bringing in that kind of non-judgment curiosity aspect, and you're taking that one step further with appreciation. Like if we don't approach those difficulties, challenges, whatever word you want to use, with that openness and willingness to sit with them, right? Um, then I think exactly what you were saying, then that has that power over us subconsciously. And we do end up in situations where either we're having panic attacks or insomnia or, 100 other things that manifest in our lives when we haven't dealt with difficulty and challenges in a conscious way.
Yeah. uh, I think also like appreciation can be hard to appreciate positive things too. Like in for me as a manager in my role, like I try to put appreciation for the things that people do for me at the forefront, because I feel like it gets lost sometimes that people are contributing via like a you only have limited time on this earth. They're contributing to your organization and what you're doing, one because they're making a paycheck for it, but two because like it has some meaningful connection to them, and two not appreciate their contribution is like, to me, not recognizing that they've dedicated some facet of their life and the time that they have here on earth to make a change in something that you're involved in. So I do try to carry that weight with me so that I understand and appreciate more often that my team is making meaningful contributions to the work that we're doing, and they're like giving it the best the best effort that they can.
Yeah, and that's so important that you're naming like workplace appreciation because, Awaken does a lot with workplaces and bringing in mindfulness. And there's a lot of research on kind of culture, organizational culture. And if you can foster that culture of appreciation, you actually increase staff's feeling of self efficacy and their feeling. I mean, if I feel appreciated in my job, it's eventually gonna increase my performance and my loyalty and my willing to give it my all, so to speak, right? And that sometimes for people can be intrinsic, right? Like I love what I do and I'm giving it my all. But if you're in that space where you're not appreciated, even if you love what you do and you're giving it your all, it can turn into a grind. It can really turn into something that doesn't have as much meaning. So I love that you're naming that.
Yeah. And I think it also makes you and the other person that you're appreciating feel better. Like it definitely changes my perspective on life in general when I'm like putting the positivity out there to openly recognize somebody and appreciate them for their contributions. Um, like this year was my first year in New York City. 9/11 was a week and a half ago, and it feels a lot different in New York than it did in Pittsburgh. So I wanted to make sure that I was cognizant of that and show appreciation for the contributions that all of our first responders gave in New York City. And one of my coworkers shared with the team that her dad was a first responder on 9/11, and he was involved with helping to save countless lives at the World Trade Centers, and ultimately spent years in the force and then became like chief of counterterrorism for New York City. And I didn't feel right if we didn't appreciate and acknowledge his service, even though nobody on the team really knows her dad. Like it felt like something that we needed to appreciate and recognize 20 odd some years later. So I just had the team like sign a card for him and show that we have appreciation for the service that he gave to the city and he gave to everybody that he helped save their lives that day. Um, I know that she definitely felt like her dad appreciated it. She said he doesn't show many emotions, but he was very thankful to have received the card from the team acknowledging his service. And then, I mean, he kind of repaid the appreciation by he gave me like a first responder challenge token, which I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're little coins, almost quarter size, of like different departments in the government, and they have like different pictures on them. And I guess all government officials, they get these tokens that they can either keep for themselves or give to other people. And so he gave me like a office of um counterterrorism challenge token. And so I thought it was a nice way to like continue to appreciate each other. Like, I appreciate what he did, and I made sure that the team was showing their appreciation as well. And then he repaid appreciation with appreciation. So it's just like being aware and taking a moment to recognize those things and appreciate them in your life, because it helps to make the world around you a little bit more positive, and it also helps to change your perspective on how you see the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it is kind of a pay it forward kind of situation, right? Like when you're showing appreciation and that next person is going to feel better, hopefully, and have more bandwidth to pay it forward to somebody else, and create that, we love to call it the ripple effect at Awaken, right? That really just sends out care, because I think that what you're describing is it's also care. It's taking the time to feel that appreciation and express it, and that somehow is nurturing. That was the word that was coming to me as you were talking. Yeah. Do you have any, Alex, specific practices or gratitude journal or anything that you do to help you feel more appreciation or integrate that into your life at all? Of
I
course, writing notes of appreciation is a practice. Like I don't want to discount
no,
that as not a
yeah,
practice.
I think that I was trying to think of this question and how I would respond to it. But for me, my practice has changed so much over the past few years that I feel like now my practice is focused on appreciation when I'm commuting home. Like, to put it into perspective, in New York, I ride the subway. In Pittsburgh, I was driving home every day from work. So now that I'm not like actively navigating on the way home, I'm like passively riding a subway. I use that time to meditate and to reflect on my day. So it's not a physical gratitude journal, but more just pausing and recounting the day and appreciating the things that did happen, whether positive or negative. Um, but like I said earlier, my practice at one point was yoga and extended shavasanas. I've practiced via like meditation and mindfulness apps. I've done, I did the intro to meditation and mindfulness through Awaken. Um, so my practice has evolved and changed based on my needs and what I had capacity to do. But I appreciate each one of them. Like, they all helped to give me something different in my practice and acknowledge something different at the time.
I love that for so many reasons. One, I feel that people have sometimes come to me with a very fixed idea of what their meditation should look like, and they're not doing it right. I'm just air quotes there for people who aren't watching me. How do I do it right? Or they'll tell me I can't meditate because they have a very narrow, fixed view of what meditation and mindfulness are supposed to look like. And what you're expressing is something that I've experienced over the over 20 years that I've been practicing, which is it evolves, it changes. There's 100 different ways to practice, and at different moments in your life or stage, or like you said, your capacity, different things are going to fit into your life or be what you need. And so you describing excuse me, you describing being on the subway and using that time to reflect on your day, name something you're appreciating in the day, and also bring in some meditation quality or practice to it, really feels perfect for me because one of the things we always tell people is, where can you fit this in your life? Where can you find that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you want to commit? And you're just naming, like, if you have a commute that involves public transportation, that might be a perfect time, right? That might be a perfect time for folks. And it doesn't have to be seated cross-legged on a cushion in a meditation hall or in a special sacred place that you have at home. You can make that special sacred place wherever you're at.
Yeah, I I have heard the same thing from friends who I'll say I'm involved with Awaken Pittsburgh, and they'll say, "I can't meditate. It's too hard for me," or I don't know where to start. And I think that meditation is a lot like eating. Like you don't crave the same thing every day, so you need to acknowledge what your brain and your body are craving, and you have to give it what is appropriate to meet that need. And there, like you said, are so many different practices that you can do that will fulfill that need at any given time. I think it's just I guess the only barrier for entry in this instance is informing yourself of what different practices are available. I think for me in my needs now, it's a lot of like quicker practices and not just without the ability to carve out too much time, having found myself a lot busier than I used to be.
And that always is one of the big obstacles for people is time, right? Even for me, it's time. That's real for all of us in modernity who are trying to, have a family, have a job, have relationships, get all the things done, have clean laundry, cook dinner, all of the things. It's maybe FOMO plays some role in there too, but it's hard to fit everything in. It really, really is. And, then there's when I don't meditate, when I'm not practicing, I see the impact in my life. So I wonder if you have, yeah, like how has your practice and especially appreciation or gratitude impacted your well-being? How do you see the results in your life?
I was just gonna add that it only takes a minute or a second to appreciate somebody. And so it's an easy practice to incorporate into your life is being mindful of that moment to appreciate something in your day, um, and not need to like carve out 30, 40 minutes to do so. So for me, I think that taking that time to recognize it has made I think the change that I've seen in recognizing and appreciating more often has been just a shift in what I perceive as a more positive environment for myself. I used to be a pretty negative or pessimistic person, and spending more time on that appreciation component, um, and acknowledging others has made me move out of maybe have less of a self-centered view of the world and thought more about how I can contribute to those around me. Um, which I think when you have a self-centered mentality, you feel emotions a lot deeper because you're in your own head and you're in your own realm. Whereas when you focus on things externally and what you can contribute, you kind of share those emotions with others and you're more outward facing instead of inner facing.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think appreciation of others is one of those things that easily helps us shift. Um, I wonder if you've also seen an impact. You've talked a lot about expressing appreciation for others, if that has shifted relationships for you at all.
Yeah, I think it has, like, in both personal and professional life. Like, personally, being in a confined space has made me recognize the contributions of my partner more, and that's changed my perspective on trying to remember to thank him more often. After living together for 10 years, you kind of do take things for granted. So it has reminded me that appreciation is an important aspect to a relationship. Um, and that could be, I guess, platonic or romantic relationship. And then in this, in a similar aspect, like professionally, appreciating my team has made me closer to them, and I think has also created an environment where they feel more comfortable to share things with me, whether about their work or personally, because they just feel like it's a safer, less hostile environment where they know that they're being met with, I'll say, empathy, like acknowledgement that their feelings or their contributions exist and that they're important to people other than just themselves.
Yeah, those are great examples. Well, there's one question that I ask on all of my podcasts, and that is, do you have a favorite mindfulness resource that you might want to share with our listeners?
We'll give a plug for the Awaken Pittsburgh website. I in the courses that I took at Awaken Pittsburgh, I think that they were really beneficial in helping me to ground my practice and also to explore the different ways in which I can approach my practice. If I didn't take that intro class or read the mindfulness book that we do during that class, um, or just have conversations with you during my time on Awaken's board. I mean, you gave us a practice at the beginning of each board meeting, and I think that that definitely changed my perspective on how I could meditate and what I could incorporate into my daily life. So, if anything, this is a plug for anyone listening to explore joining the Awaken Pittsburgh board or getting involved via volunteering with Stephanie, because she certainly has a practice that'll help you to explore mindfulness if you're interested.
Thank you for that plug. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. And it was great to get to know you a little bit better, even after being together on the board for so many years. I'm always, yeah, just a lot of joy in having these conversations. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie.